For those that want to be a CMO, right, the people that aspire to be in the role that you're in today, I'd love for them to understand a little bit more just about how you spend your day. Like from a day-to-day perspective, who are the teams that you interact with? What are the key initiatives you think about on a quarterly, annual, weekly basis? Would love to hear about that part of your life. And personally, I'm curious too. Like I have no idea how you spend your day. I want to know.
Well, talking to people like you, Connor, is
it's just all podcasts, right? It's just one after another after another. Just one giant podcast, and I have a meeting here and there, and
podcast.
Everybody else does the work, and I just kind of watch, and yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? That's what happens when you get to the top.
That would be really cool. Maybe in the next chapter in my career, that'll be.
That's retirement, right? That's when you join boards, and you just kind of watch other people. You're like, ooh, you had a really bad quarter. You need to get better. You should do a better job next time.
Exactly. Yeah, but here's how I think about my job, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how I spend my days. I'm here to set a vision for the team and always be looking toward the future, and even in 2020, as deep as I had to get into the day-to-day management of the business, opening stores, closing stores, standing up curbside, it was wild. We had a layer of work that we were still doing that's pointing us to the future. So really working on where do we need to go in the future, and that's both from a strategy standpoint as well as a capabilities, org structure, how the teams are going to work. That is more important than ever before, because we thought things were changing fast before 2020. Wow.
I mean, you had a black swan event, right? These just don't happen very often in life. And so it's such a dramatic, and especially as somebody who has such a big physical footprint, like it's just turned upside down. But keep going. Sorry.
I mean, it's seismic, and I believe that things will keep changing at this pace now forevermore. And so the idea of this, constant evolution of strategy and team is how I spent my time before. It's even more how I spend my time now. Where do we need to go? And a lot of that is learning from outside people. Where are other industries going? Where are other companies going? So we have done a lot more establishing non-competitive partnerships to be able to share those things and help friends in the industry, and I think that's really cool. So that's certainly a big part of how I spend my time. The way I think about priorities is 100% based on our company's priorities. So our big initiatives like Winning in Skin, Conscious Beauty at Ulta Beauty, which we launched in the pandemic year in October, was one of those future focused things that we were like, we can't slow down, we have to keep going. Those are the types of things that I spend my time and focus on. Big campaigns. We also launched Where Dreams Begin in August. So it was, a year that was no rest for the weary. So big campaigns, big initiatives. And my job is really to connect the dots. And it's to work across the leadership team. So I'll get back to that because that was one of your questions in there. And to be able to help people make things bigger, clearer, better, so that guidance that I'm providing, at key milestones along the way for all of those initiatives is really how I spend my time. And then team building. When I think about the crux of what we need to do, I think about the strength of the marketing team, the strength of the marketing team's relationships within the company. Those kinds of things are just key foundation for us. So that's a lot of how I spend my time. So go ahead.
I was going to say, when you say team building there, my mind instantly jumps to recruiting. Like I had a question. I was like, I want to ask her about this part of the recruiting process. But then you dove into like, no, this is about building cross-functional relationships and about like growing the existing team rather than recruiting. That's, it's just, I don't know. It's fun when somebody surprises you with an answer. Anyways, keep going.
I mean, that has been even more important. Honestly, the understanding, the empathy, the insight of the team through 2020. And I spent a lot of time with individual teams. Then in January, we had a major rethink, restructure, organizational change. And since that time, I've been even more focused on spending time with individual teams, doing a couple things. One, helping them envision where we're going and why we made the changes that we did. And two, getting their input and getting their insight and their ideas and their understanding as we shape the future of marketing at Ulta Beauty together. So, back to how I spend my time, I mean, that's a huge focus of mine. And if you look at my calendar over the last couple months, those individual team meetings and then individual one-on-ones have been really, really important. And those are the kinds of things that are, I think so key to the incredible culture that we've created. Again, back to Mary's legacy and the importance of that to Dave and why that's going to be, a very seamless transition. And then, back to your question on other functions, going to market is not, it's not a solo sport.
No.
It's not like it's marketing. And no, we've got the digital team, we've got the merchandising team. I mentioned the store teams. These teams and being on the same page are really, really important. And, my relationship and work across my peers and with our leadership team to do even more to, this has been my mantra over the past year: simplification, prioritization, decisiveness, clarity. And, last year, 365 days ago, I wrote those words on a piece of paper and put them up on the wall. And that has been my focus within my team. And then I really doubled down on how I do that across the leadership team with my peers. So that's, that's a lot of how I spend my time too. And I want us to be, as leaders in the organization, I want us to be a united front, being able to give the teams, prioritization, simplification, decisiveness, and clarity. So that's that's kind of how I spend my time in a nutshell.
That makes sense. Sounds like a lot, to say the least. I love that idea. I mean, like all of those words, the thing that runs through my mind is focus. I think focus is incredibly difficult to do because there are always, there's always this shiny new object. There's always more that you can do. There's always more budget you can spend, obviously, as a CMO. So being able to be focused is super critical, particularly during difficult times. Like, how do we condense this down into the 2 or 3 things that are the most important so that everybody can row in the right direction?